I can already tell this will prompt spirited responses in the comments, but Batman Forever is my favorite film out of the original Batman quadrilogy. As a kid, it was the only one of the four that I liked, period. I was born after Batman 89, so by the time I was old enough to watch TV and retain what had happened, I was watching Batman the Animated Series daily after school. I was used to watching Batman kicking ass and taking names without having to sit through an hour of Jack Nicholson aimlessly dicking around. Mom would watch Batman 89 and I'd get so damn bored waiting for Batman to show up in his own movie. Babies are born unto this earth knowing Batman's origin story, and yet Burton's Batman spends an hour and a half slowly teasing it out like a grand mystery. Batman Returns is Tim Burton's style run amok. It has all the problems of the first film magnified, as now there are 3 villains to draw focus. Batman is damn near an invincible hero with magic gadgets for every situation, but honestly, I just never liked the moody, bitter tone of the movie. It always feels unpleasant to watch to me. Also, the profuse prominent stitches on Catwoman's costume make her look like a zombie. I have a soft spot for Batman and Robin just because I like Mr. Freeze, but that movie is a few good seeds of a story buried under mountains of studio notes with pacing and plotting issues out the ass. Batman Forever was the first of the live-action movies that was actually about Batman, putting the focus of the story squarely on Batman grappling with his double life. It was the first Batman film where the villains were actual threats. Two-Face was goofy and off-base from the comics because Tommy Lee Jones was trying to compete with Jim Carrey, but his violence, madness, and preparedness made him a demonstrable match for Batman, and Riddler would have won were it not for his own psychosis. Contrast with Nicholson's Joker, who only seems to get as far as he does because Batman is lazy, and Penguin, whose plans all get stopped mere minutes after they get off the ground. Forever was also the first Batman film that had one linear, constantly escalating plot, whereas Joker and Penguin kept pulling new plans and motivations out of their asses. Now that I'm older, I appreciate Batman 89's atmosphere and cinematography, while conversely, Forever's terminal 90s-ness has not aged well, but I'll still hold up Batman Forever as the best of the original films. All the pre-Nolan films are style over substance, but Forever tries the hardest at having substance. All of which makes it unfortunate that Batman Forever has one of the most legendarily awful licensed games in history. For years I've been getting requests to cover Batman Forever on the Super Nintendo, a platformer that Acclaim inexplicably made using the Mortal Kombat engine, so the controls are 11 kinds of ass. Sadly, I do not own a Super Nintendo, and now that I've got an SNES Classic, I'll probably never get one, but luckily that Super Nintendo game was ported largely unmodified to the Sega Genesis. I forgot to get a model that's compatible with a Sega CD, but oh well, I've got one. So as my Christmas gift to you, the fans, this is Batman Forever on Super Nintendo on Sega Genesis. I will give the game a few compliments before we get started. The graphics for the game are pretty damn good, doing digitized actors and environments without it looking like pixelated shat. I like how the game has a wide arsenal of gadgets, even though I have no idea what these stats mean. BTCR, what is that, bat carrying capacity? You can play as either Batman or Robin or use them in 2-player co-op, and they actually have different gadgets and movesets, plus the Genesis version lets you play as the enemies and even Two-Face in the training mode. It'd be nice if they weren't all solid blue for being holograms, but it's still cool. I've heard you can play as the Riddler, but I couldn't get it to work. Also, the Genesis version doesn't inexplicably have load times like the Super Nintendo game does, not sure how that even happens with cartridges, and it has a few halfway decent voice clips.
If the Bat wants to play, we'll play.
But that's about the end of the positives. Robin looks awful. The actor doing capture work for Batman has a sleek, shiny suit that looks straight out of the movie, but Robin's actor looks like he made a cheap cloth suit at home with that huge, clunky green mask. Burt Ward's Robin suit from the 60s looked better, and he wasn't wearing any pants! Did they just run out of budget, or did they look around the room and say, nobody's gonna play Robin, he's useless in the movie, who cares? I briefly played Robin just to try him out, and it feels like Robin's deal is that he trades some speed for extra range, which I wasn't wild about. So yeah, I'm sticking with Batman. The game begins in Arkham Asylum, where Two-Face has escaped and you need to clean up the riot that he left behind. You go around beating up criminals in typical Mortal Kombat fights. The controls at first seem pretty basic. A to punch, B to block, C to kick, with uppercuts, leg sweeps, and jump kicks. Near as I can tell, there are no combos. I've gotten Batman to combat roll a few times, but don't ask me how. The block feels useless, it keeps you from flinching, but you still take a lot of damage, and several of your moves just feel stiff, like there's a pause where you're open if you miss. And of course, enemies can knock you back into previous rooms. Nice. Already in the second room, you hit a dead end with nowhere to go except a hole in the ceiling. You fiddle around with the buttons until you find out that Y fires the grappling hook. Of course, the Genesis has two different controllers and one of them doesn't have a Y button. I don't want to know how this abomination plays with the original 3-button controller. And Batman shoots from the hip, so it looks like he's swinging from his penis. I keep trying the grappling hook, but no matter where I stand, Batman won't travel up through the hole. He keeps dropping off the line for no reason. So how the hell do I get up there? Turns out there's a way to fire the grappling hook straight up. You press Y, wait a split second, and then press up. Enter it in even slightly wrong, and you jump or shoot diagonal. But if you shoot up, it works. Okay, why doesn't the grappling hook fire straight up by default? I could count on one hand the number of times where grappling diagonally is even remotely useful, even if it worked right. So why have it? And then a mere 2 rooms later, you hit a spot where you have to jump down. In most games, you jump down by just holding down and pressing jump, but right, you can't really press down and up at the same time. So now you just mash down with every shittin' button on the controller, hoping that something works on pure accident. I try jumping and holding down as I fall. I double or triple tap down. I press every button on the controller while holding down. I try holding down and pressing combos of buttons, and that accidentally fired off a couple of my gadgets. Zilch, zip, nada, nyet, bupkish, jack squad, nothing works! I even looked up walkthroughs, and the control listing that I found for the Genesis version lists off everything except how to jump down! I've heard it's not even listed in the manual! After 20 shittin' minutes of experimentation, I figure out how you drop through floors. You ready? You hold down and C for a few seconds, and you have to keep holding them down because just entering in the combo makes Batman do a leg sweep. And honestly, even this doesn't always work. Sometimes I have to hold A down with them too. Either way, these are some of the dumbest controls I've ever heard of. If they wanted to make a platformer, then why use an engine that isn't even remotely built for platforming and which is already built to monopolize the controller? What were they thinking? And the awful controls don't even end there. You can glide to cross certain pits, and you glide by, I am not making this up, pressing up 3 times in a single jump. Also, Robin looks stupid when he's gliding. You pick out 2 gadgets before each level, and pressing forward down C throws this electric pellet thing. But if I equip any other gadget to that inventory slot, then forward down C doesn't work. Each individual gadget has its own unique button combo, so even if I equip a gadget, I can't use it until I find the secret code that throws the fucking thing! This was a softball! 1 combo for each inventory slot! How hard is that? I'm playing on the normal difficulty, and already in the first level, the enemies are kicking my ass. I have to make some allowances for me sucking at Mortal Kombat, but there's still a fundamental misconception about how games work here. Every enemy in the game is as fast as Batman, tends to have the same basic moveset as you, and they have no wind-up to any of their difficult-to-dodge attacks. Pretty much every enemy in the game feels like an even match for you. Fast action and equal balancing are key in a one-on-one fighting game, but not in a platformer where you have to beat up about 50 evenly matched enemies on the way out of the first level. Going toe-to-toe with enemies, you will constantly take glancing hits because they're just too fast to avoid, and the damage builds up fast. What's worse is the enemies will often attack you in groups of 2, and one of the 2 will constantly try to jump behind you so they can double team you, which the engine and moveset aren't built to handle at all. You have no control over where you face if there's an enemy to either side, and the game will switch at random and screw up your attack inputs. It feels like the game was balanced for 2-player co-op, and it doesn't rebalance if you're playing solo. But luckily I found that each of your gadgets has unlimited ammo, and this electric pellet deals loads of damage, can't be blocked, and knocks enemies flat on their ass. You have to wait forever and a half for them to get back up after every shot, but it pretty decisively breaks the combat in my favor. If you land a kill shot with the electric pellet, the enemy just falls down, jumps back up, and then falls back down like they've only just remembered to die. Level 2, you have to stop Two-Face from robbing a bank. You run around freeing guards and fighting guys dressed like The Mask. Dude, wrong Jim Carrey movie. You just kind of find out on accident that there are entire floors you can grapple up and drop through. Otherwise, it's pretty much more of the same. Wait a minute, why did I just warp clear across the floor? And look at my lives! I just lost a life out of nowhere! What the hell is going— Game over?! I died! My health wasn't anywhere close to empty! I just spontaneously combusted twice in this room by crouching? I died twice from a game bug. You get 6 lives and no continues. You can get a few extra lives between levels by finding all the stage's secret rooms, something I managed exactly once, but that's it for help. Once you die, you get sent back to the start of the game. Just perfect. Throughout this first level, you find riddles that the Riddler says will lead you to secrets, like this first one, rather bluntly telling you that there's a chest with bonus items above you. But most of these riddles don't make any damn sense. Rather fitting for the Riddler, actually. To discover the treasures revealing their jewels, open their locks with your world of tools. Jewels, what, do I kick the enemies in the nards? Credit is given where credit is due, come around again and you'll get it too. Does that mean anything? The bulk of the riddles are actually meant to be tutorials. That crap about jewels and tools is supposed to tell you that you can blow up certain objects with gadgets to get items. The come around again thing is meant to be a tutorial advising that you often have to backtrack through levels to make progress. And several of the riddles don't mean anything because they're the game's way of telling you about secret gadgets that you can unlock if you find all the blueprints. Which you won't. So even the tutorials of the game make no damn sense. My second crack at the game, I cheesed my way through the combat with the electric pellet gadget. Now the gameplay is fairly easy, which highlights another big problem. Batman Forever gets repetitive fast. The same 2 largely identical enemies get repeated dozens of times in a single stage. Each level is essentially 1 or 2 fights repeated over and over. Once you get the hang of the combat, it's just boring. The only entertainment you get is seeing the bizarre street names of every thug that you run into, like this dude named Antifreeze. If you drink me, I'll kill you! The bank level ends with Batman standing on the stolen vault as Two-Face flies away. Where does Two-Face find so many goons loyal enough to go down and fight Batman on a large, swinging, unstable metal platform suspended hundreds of feet in the air that could drop them to their deaths at any moment? Whatever he's paying them, I promise it is not enough. Naturally, the enemies can easily knock you off to a cheap instant death with no way to save yourself, but you can knock them off for an insta-kill too. Hey Mom, look! Batman's up there! He's fighting bad guys! Get him, Batman! I am the Knight! Also, there are a crapload of healing items that I found by accidentally blowing up things in the background. Don't know why this particular level is so generous. I never came across dumps of items like this again. Level 3 is the Circus, where Two-Face has set a bomb and where Robin's parents die in the movie. So if you're playing as Robin, he basically shows up to prevent his own origin story. You dumb son of a bitch! Did you learn nothing from Flashpoint? Barry Allen tried this, and he ruined the universe.
You fucked up my face.
You have 5 minutes to find the bomb, jumping and grapple hooking through a series of platforms. The exit to each room doesn't open until you've killed every single enemy in your current room. Oh, mother of shit. Dropping through floors uses the same input as the sweep kick, so I keep accidentally dropping back into the previous room. The third area of this stage, I just hit a dead end and I'm left to wander around until time runs out and I die. There are no more enemies and there's no way further into the level, so what gives? Truly puzzling, old chum. I admit that I am stumped. I will check the Batnet using my portable Bat phone with remote uplink to the Bat computer to look for a way forward. 2 enemies called Heist and Larceny are supposed to spawn here, and when you kill them, the level explodes to reveal an exit. But I try this level 3 times before I run out of lives. The goons don't spawn! My first instinct is that the game's broken again, but no. You're supposed to drop through a floor to this platform in the farthest lower left corner that you can't see. This makes a clown spawn out of thin air, and now Heist and Larceny will spawn so you can kill them to open the exit. But no, that barely even opens the exit. There's still nowhere to go unless you just instinctively know that the exit is one of the anonymous hatches in the ceiling that didn't lead anywhere before, but does now. Did the Riddler design this game himself or some shit? Endurance is starting to become a big problem. It feels like every level has some trick that sucks out your lives and sends you back to start. It's not hard to go back through the levels once you've deciphered out how they work. The game is just so slow and painful to play that it's testing my sanity, playing the same opening shit for another half hour for a crack at the stage that killed me! Patience is a virtue, old chum, but so is punctuality. There must be a way to play through the remainder of the game in a timely manner to get the video out in time for Christmas. And I think I've got it. I'll use the Bat computer to study the game's code and look for exploits that can be used to proceed into the game. What luck! The game has cheat codes! On the main menu, you press left, up, left, A, B, and it brings up a cheats menu. L lets you pick the level that you start on. S lets you start on a specific screens of the level. You can skip the level briefings, not sure why that had to be a code. And you can equip all your gadgets at once. Oh, so that's why the gadgets all have stupid-ass controls. You can also rig the game so that every enemy dies in one hit, or set it to where entering the cheat menu code while the game's paused will insta-kill whoever you're fighting. I got through with just the level skipping, though. Most of these old cheat codes exist so that QA testers wouldn't have to beat a game to test it. But you're telling me the game sucked so bad that testers needed codes to warp to individual screens on command, and this wasn't a massive red flag? Level 4, Batman finds Two-Face's hideout in some perpetually pitch-black warehouse. This level is annoying because you have to constantly backtrack across the same room multiple times until the game just decides to spawn all the enemies you need to kill for the exit to open. It's also annoying because you have to do some platforming over pits of acid. You find out on accident that Batman will vault and flip over these circular things in the background, but he only grabs them if he feels like it. And now I appreciate why Batman adopted a circus acrobat as his sidekick. Hire someone else to do this shit for him. At the end of the stage, you fight Two-Face, and he's a cakewalk because you've already fought the same guy with a similar moveset about 150 times to get to this point. Plus, he's still vulnerable to taser pellets to the nuts. Level 5 is the Nigma Tech party that's robbed by Two-Face and Riddler's goons, even though I just captured Two-Face last level, so what the hell. This level is only 3 rooms that you have to traipse back and forth over killing new enemies until the ceiling just decides to explode and open the exit. This is where the enemies start to get friggin' hard to kill. They block or duck your attacks constantly to land counters that you can't dodge, and they start to spam special attacks with a lot of range and no windup. I keep trying to not use the projectile attacks and play the game legitimately, and every time I try, I get my ass handed to me. And then at the end of the stage, they drop 4 extra lives at once, as if to apologize for how friggin' broken the combat is getting. Then you fight Riddler. Or, more accurately, you meet Riddler, and I tase his candy ass to the ground. Level 6, you chase Two-Face and Riddler into the subway system. Now you have to fight on trains that you can get knocked off of for an instant kill, rails while your electrical shocks keep running down the tracks, and every now and then a subway train comes barreling down and takes a bite out of your health unless you can grapple out of the way with about a second's warning. So you're just constantly getting pounded up the ass with cheap damage. I briefly bumped the game down to easy difficulty to try and get past this level, but honestly, I didn't notice a damn bit of difference and switched it back because I'm still getting butchered. It was about this time that I looked up some long plays of the game to see how other people play this, because whatever I'm doing in the combat ain't working. Every long play that I can find for the game uses the same tactic to fight all the enemies: spamming the high kick. Unbeknownst to me, pressing Z will do a high kick that knocks enemies down and doesn't get blocked very often, so the seemingly proper strategy to use in combat is to spin kick an enemy to the ground, time another spin kick the second that they get up, and resort to gadgets and the combat roll if they get ornery and start dodging. So finally, I know how you're actually supposed to play the game. You use a better broken exploit to the combat than the one that I was using. Wait, back the hell up! Why do Two-Face's goons have a blowjob move? It turns out you don't take damage while using the grappling hook, so it doesn't take much practice to dodge the stage hazards. This shit is just here as a beginner's trap to forcibly drag out the game's length in the cheapest way possible. Level 7 is the Riddler and Two-Face invading Wayne Manor. I know that he's Batman, but does Bruce typically keep his mansion this friggin' dark? The hitches for this level are that you have to instinctively know to kick open an anonymous wall or you hit a dead end, and there's a laser trap security system that's pretty much guaranteed to suck out a life. Don't ask me why Batman only has one security system and he only put it in front of the Batplane. I will say, though, the pixel art backgrounds of the Batcave look fantastic. Oh poop, there's no Batmobile driving level in this game, is there? Or Batplane flying level, for that matter. Last level, the Riddler's hideout. They pull out all the stops to make this the most infuriating level in the game. You fight enemies on narrow platforms where a glancing hit knocks you into an instant death pit. How pissed would you be if you slogged for over an hour only to get here and lose all your lives and start over to this cheap trap? Then there's an infuriating platforming puzzle where you have to light up 6 beacons on a short timer by jumping across retracting handholds that aren't always synced up and which you regularly pass right through. Fan-friggin-tastic. Oh, and Riddler's goons can turn invisible. permanently. It's not a bug, near as I can tell. It's just one of their moves. You fight Riddler 3 times while question mark logos blitz across the screen, I guess figuring that if the bosses don't kill you, then maybe a seizure will. Then you fight Two-Face again, but luckily the game has a glitch that makes Two-Face go out like a punk. See, if you crouch high kick an enemy that's crouching, they'll completely freeze in place while you repeatedly kick them in the face. I didn't have to look up this exploit either. I found this all by myself. You can trick Two-Face into sitting completely still, taking boots to the head until he dies. You are just comprised of fail. And then you fight the final boss of the game, the Riddler as drawn by Rob Liefeld? The final boss is this gargantuan, cartoonishly over-muscled mutant Riddler. This is actually based on a joke that was cut from the movie, where Riddler was going to show up to the final confrontation buffed like hell to compete with and intimidate Batman, but then it'd turn out that it was a muscle suit. Kinda interesting how that concept apparently remained in the movie long enough into production for it to end up as the game's final boss. Bane Riddler knocks off huge chunks of your health with each hit, and his attacks are damn hard to dodge. One of them's a ground slam that seems to hit you anywhere. He's also immune to gadgets, so you just have to get in close and hope that he doesn't suplex off half your health bar whether you go to attack. The crouch kick seems to do a decent job of avoiding him, but still, I don't know how you're supposed to beat this boss. But you defeat the Riddler and you get a crappy picture of Gotham's skyline with congratulations written on it. Whoop-de-friggin-do. Batman Forever on the Super Nintendo and Genesis is maligned and notorious for having garbage controls, but that's only the tip of what's wrong with this game. It's unbalanced where you have to find exploits in the combat to make progress. It's loaded with cheap deaths to forcibly pad out the game in the most infuriating way possible. Its moon logic makes the game way more confusing and infuriating than it needs to be. There's no storyline to it, and even when you know how to play the game, it's a painfully slow and repetitive fighting game. Now that I'm practiced up on the game, I'm pretty sure I could make it to the last level without using cheat codes, but without the codes it would have been torture to play this to the end. But at least that's finally over, and I can get back to celebrating the holidays. Who has this number? Hello? You dare to impugn my work, you intellectual insect? Who is this? I'm a man of few words, but a man of many riddles. Now riddle me this. Where do video games cross paths with sailors? In Shenmue? Ports! Both video games and sailors make use of ports! Very good. Now riddle me twice. A game barely works with 16 bits and 8 buttons. What do you get if you cut it in half? No, it can't be. The answer is your next review. Yes! Batman Forever Super Nintendo on Game Boy!